Alright everyone, this is Kane Atsuki here and welcome back to a new What If. Now this is what if I was inspired to do this, so this what if is what if Naruto, no sorry, what if Kurama was Naruto's mother? Yes, this is a female Kurama what if. Do not judge me. As anywho, Kurama was Anywho, yes, as you can see here, Naruto will have siblings. Now, let us begin. Our story begins right around the time before Minato was the Hokage. Well, right after Minato was made Hokage. As he would be working late one night, and he would find, and he would be visited by, well, someone disguised as Kushina. Now why this person would visit him, allow me to explain. This person was Kurama. She was interested in humans and all they would hold. As, well, Kurama got bored, lonely. Well, not really. Got it? Sorry about that. As pretty much, this person would be Kurama, as she would be bored. Well, not much as bored, but a bit lonely as well. As she would be looking, as a couple weeks back, she would start looking at and watching Minato non-stop, as she would get obsessed with him. To the point where she would stalk him daily, but she would not stalk him entirely. What do I mean by this? Well, she wouldn't really think of it as, she wouldn't really want to be with Minato. That is until she got an idea. As she had had kids with all types of animals before, and it only gave her foxes. However, she was to have kids with a human. Would that give her a new species of powerful half-humans? Maybe even gods. As she would disguise herself as Kushina, and that's where we're at right now. As Kurama disguised as Kushina would ask for, and would basically hold Minato at the wall, and, she would smile sadistically and force him to have sex with her. As pretty much after that, just hold on 1 second. As basically, she would be forceful and sadistic because they were having their nighttime sparring. As well, Minato would not know what to do, but he would have sex with her because he thought it was his wife. As afterwards, she would use a sort of memory trick to give all the memories of having a fun time with Minato to Kushina. Of course, she would keep the memories, it's just that she duplicated them and transferred those duplicates to Kashina. As she would then walk into the forest, possibly never to be seen again. Oh, I forgot to say this. Kurama is not part of the Ten Tails. She does have her giant Nine Tails form, but she cannot be caught under Genjutsu, and she is like not part of the Ten Tails. You can't put her in the Gedo statue. I mean, if you were, you would not get the Ten Tails. You'd get giant ten-tailed Kurama that's angry and is about to beat your ass. As pretty much. Oh, I forgot to mention this. Kurama's ears, when she's happy, kind of droop down to look like hair, and her nine tails, which aren't like you see right there. See, that's a tail. Uh, that's a tail. Um, that's a tail. That's a tail. Basically, yeah, those tails, when she's not angry, they will fold back into a sort of happy state, and her whiskers will not be that angry looking. As all of her tails will droop down to look like normal hair when she's happy. As anywho, she was. Next day, Kurama would use chakra to see if she was pregnant or not. And she was excited that when she found out she was. As we then do a skip to about 9 months later. While she was expecting one or maybe even two kids, she did not expect what was to come, as she would be giving birth and see 4 babies. As they look like normal humans, and she's just like, oh. And then for a second, they flipped into foxes. Then they flipped back into humans, and she's just like, ooh. And most of their lives, till the age of 4, they were like normal humans, pretty much. That is until they reach the age of 4, when the children would grow fox ears and a certain amount of tails. Now, the strongest. Now, she would have named her kids Chi-Chi. Yes, I know that's a name from Dragon Ball. Chi-Chi, Tayoshi, Akuma. Yes, I know Akuma is from Street Fighter. Or it's, I believe, Japanese for demon. Anywho, Akuma and Naruto. As Chi-Chi is a female. Well, no, not Chi-Chi. Chai-Lin. Yes, Chai-Lin is a male. Now, he had 2 orange ears, just like his siblings, and in his humanoid form, he had 3 tails. His mother was excited that he had 1/3 of her power, and that he had 3 tails. As she would wonder what the other kids got. As she would walk over to Tayoshi, who would have grown 2 fox ears and 5 tails. As she would think, yes! As she would then hug Tayoshi and think he's one of my strongest children. as she would then go over to, what was the name I gave him? Tayoshi. I gave Tayoshi, Jaylin, Naruto. I'm gonna give him a new name because I forgot. Okay, so Atoroshi. She went over to Atoroshi and saw him grow 4 tails. And she would think, not as strong as, not, he's stronger than Shaylin, but weaker than Tayoshi. As she would then go to the last child of them all, the youngest, well, the oldest Naruto. As Naruto, but they were basically all twins. He was only old by a couple of seconds. As he would grow 2 fox ears and then 9. Hold on. And then he grew 9 fox tails. This, of course, excited and astonished Kurama. And she would then say, one of my sons has 9 tails. One of my sons has 9 tails. As she would think of him as the strongest, as she would be most caring toward all of her children, but when it came to training, she would train Naruto the most. After all, he was the strongest of them, of her children. As over time they would learn, she would teach them how to turn into oxes, as Naruto could also do this, as when his brothers turned into foxes, they were orange and white. However, when Naruto turned into a fox, he was orange and black. Kurama expected that he was different out of all of them, as she would teach him in fox styles of fighting. Basically like fox martial arts. Like fox style of kung fu, pretty much. As we now do a time skip to when they're the age of 6. As Naruto and his brothers are told to go to the Hidden Leaf Village, and I forgot to mention, as I said, there's no 9-tailed fox, but there is a 9-tailed wolf. Okay? Just to make that clear. It's a white and it's pretty much a black and blue 9-tailed wolf. As anyhow, Naruto and his brothers would be told to walk out into the village and get clothes and food. Pretty much, because the next day they'd be going to the academy. As the 4 brothers would enter the village, run on the rooftops, stay hidden from the shinobi there, as they were pretty much just having a ball. As well, Naruto would be the fastest and strongest of the 4 children. As they would basically have learned the ability to hide their tails. As while Naruto's 3 brothers preferred to be foxes, Naruto was, preferred to be human, or in his humane state. as Naruto would be walking around, as he would pretty much go to a ramen. He would pretty much be going to a grocery store, and then he saw the Ichiraku ramen, as he had never heard of ramen before, as he in his mind would say, Ray man, Ray man. I'd like to try this ramen. As he would walk over to Ichiraku ramen, as he would say, may I have some ramen? As Tayuchi, I'm pretty sure that's the name of the owner, would look at him puzzled and say, you mean ramen? As Naruto would then say, I guess this is my first time here. Sorry. As he would say, oh, it's okay. As he would then ask for Naruto to pay, as Naruto would pretty much have some gold nuggets that he and his brothers found while playing in the lake one day, as he would then give one gold nugget to the man and say, here you go, sir. As he would then walk away, and as Naruto would then walk away, as he'd go to the grocery store and get some clothes for he and his brothers. However, well, little did they know that someone was watching them. Someone who is always bullied and and people try to use him as a weapon. This person would be Sasuke Uchiha. Yes, Sasuke Uchiha will be the Jinchuriki of the Nine-Tailed Wolf. As Sasuke would be looking at Naruto and the three foxes, as he'd think, weird. Maybe they're here as tribute or something. As he would then look over to a statue near where the Hokage heads are. As this statue would be about the size of 2 Hokage heads put together. Or maybe even 3. Now you're probably wondering, what statue is this? This would be a statue of Kurama, as Kurama would be the patron goddess of the leaf, or the entire Fire Nation, pretty much. She would be the patron goddess of the Fire Nation. As many years ago, she would have helped the Fire Nation in times of war, survival, and, well, would have helped feed the poor and help the innocent. As she was pretty much a hero in their eyes, as they created a ginormous statue of her, as they would call her Kurama the Fox Goddess. As the Fox Goddess of protection and nobility, as her acts were always kind and noble, and she was protective. However, because she was sort of motherly towards everyone she met, because she was a bit motherly towards some people, they would begin to give her another name, the Fertility Goddess. This, of course, would tick off Kurama just a tad bit, and Naruto and his brothers as well, as they'd be walking over to as they would pretty much just walk over to the statue, and he would just think, they got an exact likeness of my mom. I mean, it's very nice indeed. As Naruto and his brothers would bow at the statue and pray. And would basically not pray or bow, they would sit near the statue and just look at the village. As they would do this, a couple of men would see the foxes and, well, they would see Naruto nearby the foxes as he would think, that boy is trying to take one of the foxes. Because there was like a whole bunch of foxes that went near this temple. As this land with the statue on it was called the Fox Village, as there was hundreds of foxes living here. As the man would go over and hit Naruto. As well, we go about. Now we cut to Kurama, who is just in the forest peacefully sleeping, as her eyes then bulge and get wide open. As she then basically, it's like she instant transmissions all the way to the Leaf Village. As she then goes over to the man and says, "How dare you put your hands on my son?" As they would see Kurama, and then they would say, Goddess Kurama, we're sorry, we're sorry, we're sorry. As Sasuke Uchiha would still be watching, as he would say, the goddess has a child. As she would say, now, the three of you, please, while you're in the village, be in your human forms. She would say, I don't want your brother getting hurt again for thinking that he's taking any of the foxes. As the three would then say, fine, yes, Mom, as they would turn into their human forms but hide the tails. As one would have orange hair, another would have red and yellow hair, as another would have red hair and orange and yellow hair, as Naruto would have all yellow hair. Well, yellow with some streaks of orange. As one of Naruto's eyes would be blue, as the other eye would be, Kurama's fox-slit eyes. As Naruto would be walking and would... Naruto would be saying, come on guys, I don't want to get hurt again. As the three would say, yes, little brother. Yes, little brother. No, yes, big bro. As the three would then follow Naruto. As pretty much when they heard the slap, half of the entire village went there just to see what happened. As they saw a kid with foxes, and then Kurama appears out of nowhere and slaps the villager. As she would then tell the foxes to turn into human forms, as they would then see the foxes turn to human forms, as the humanoid foxes would then say, hey, yes, big bro, to the guy who looked like a normal human, as they then think that they were the four children of Kurama. However, but they did not know who Dad was. As Kurama would then say, hey, now we have to get out of this village quickly before, well, not really before anything, as she would then walk over to Minato's office, and she'd be walking over or to the gates, as she would be stopped by Danzo. who Danzo would at this point in time, he would have murdered all the Uchihas. I mean, all the Uchihas would be slaughtered, but he would want something even more. He would want to capture and control a god, as Kurama was a divine being. As he would try to attack her and capture her, as he would be stopped by Minato, who obviously knew the rules. If you anger one god, you anger them all. And he did not want the Shinigami, the Sage of Six Paths, as Indra, Ashura, or Hamura. He did not, and Amaterasu. Yes, Amaterasu is a Japanese goddess. Um, hmm, Sasano, which is a Japanese god. Basically, he did not want all these gods on his ass. And also, he did not want Raijin on his ass, because Raijin is a god's name. As he would say, Danzo, you fool, do not hurt that goddess. You do realize if you hurt her, you will bring forth an entire armada of gods on the Leaf Village? And she is our patron. Why would you hurt her? As she would then look at Minato and just for a second blush. As she would say, kids, let's go. As they'd say, okay, mom. As Minato would be looking at Kurama and the kids, saying, I'm so sorry, almighty goddess. As he would then look at Naruto, who basically looked like a mini version of him, except with some orange in his hair and a red eye. As Minato would then say, what a weird coincidence. This child kinda looks like a younger version of me. As she would then say, well, I mean, they should, because they're your kids. As Minato would then say, what? As Kurama would then explain all that happened. As Minato would be happy that he had kids, sad because his wife kinda died, and kind of a bit angry that, well, a goddess would take advantage of him, but he would not. He would not, be angry towards her or the kids because he still knew they're gods. If I anger them, I anger them all. If I anger one, I anger them all. As he would say, okay. As he would try to bond with the kids. As, well, they would then go to the gate, as they would say, now, kids, we have to go and prepare for the academy. See you maybe tomorrow or the next day, Minato, as she would walk away. As Sasuke would still be watching, as he would somehow escape the village. Just sneak out of the village and follow Naruto and his family, as they were just walking over to their home, which was basically, imagine a mansion about the size of 10 White Houses made out of wood. Like, made out of branches and roots. Yeah, that's kind of what they live in. As anywho, he would follow them into this house, and he would follow them to where they lived. As Naruto, and as she would say, alright kids, now into your true forms, please. As Naruto and his brothers would then transform into their fox form, into their kitsune forms. As then, as well, Sasuke would then say, so they really are her kids. As she would then say, Naruto, let's train. As she would grab Naruto and begin training. As Sasuke would still be watching, seeing how, and then he would get an idea. With each one of the tails, you control a certain element. The maximum of tails you can have is 9. As he would see, Kurama had 9 tails. As he would say, of course, the fox god. Well, no, in this she only has 8. Okay? In this she only has 8. As he would look at her and say, so she has a lot of tails. But then he'd look at Naruto and say, hey, holy, he's stronger than his mother. As Naruto would have the power over all foundation elements such as ice, metal, earth, fire, water, wind, and let me think here. Okay, ice, metal, water, fire, earth, lightning, no, earth, wind, then light and dark, which those were the 8 foundation elements which Kurama had all. However, Naruto would also have a 9th ability. His 9th tail would be called Creation, and would be called all Creation. As with this 9th ability, Naruto could use the power of the 8 foundation elements to create anything out of thin air without using any chakra, with only his imagination. And so then it's basically like yin yang release, or is it yang release? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's yang release. It's pretty much like yang release, except no, you don't require chakra. And pretty much seals don't work on it. Yeah, you can't copy it. Anywho, as it would be called creation release. Or that's what Kurama would name it. As Naruto would be sparring with his mother, as he would eventually beat her over and over in battle. As Sasuke Uchiha would be watching them would basically be watching them in the woods for a couple of weeks now. As one day, there would be a knock on the door. One day, and I'm gonna say Sasuke kind of burrowed in the walls and made himself like a little home or shelter. As he was in the walls, as he would see he would basically hear a knock at the door. He would go and see what this was, as he would see the Sage of Six Paths. As in this, Kurama is his blood daughter. As he would say, Kurama, I heard you have some children. I heard you have children, and one of them is stronger than you. You do know that he not only requires your training, but mine and Hamura's as well. As she would then say, yes, father, I know. As she would then say, Naruto, as he would walk out, as he would basically be scampering in his fox form out of nowhere, as he would turn into his kitsune form. As he would say, yes, mother. As she would say, this is your grandfather, Hagoromo, aka the Sage of Six Paths. as he would then look at the Sage of Six Paths and say, "Hello, grandfather." As the Sage of Six Paths would say, "Hello, Naruto. I am your, I guess you could say, grandfather." Well, I am your grandfather. Your mother here is the strongest of my three children. I offered her to take my place, however, she refused. As I would then choose Ashura, who Indra would be extremely angry. Let's just say your mother kind of has the prodigy of. It's kind of like the prodigy of Indra, but also the kindness of Ashura. That's why I chose her first. However, you two. However, she did not want to be my successor, as my sons kind of fought to the death. However, you show great promise. Would you like to train with me? As Naruto would then say, "Of course, grandfather." As Hagoromo would open a white portal, as like a white circle would open up out of nowhere, like, and then it would pretty much just open, revealing it's a door, and then Naruto and Hagoromo would walk through it. As he would then say, I'll bring him back in a cycle of 9 years." As Naruto and Hagoromo would be pretty much on the moon where Hamura is, as they would say, "Alright, let the training begin." And that is where I'm going to leave it off with. Yes, say hello to my cliffhanger no jutsu. I know it's one of the worst jutsus that ever exist, but goodbye. Hope you all enjoyed. Kaboom.